breathe. I have every reason to breathe easy. I was getting to know myself and being grateful for myself and completely relaxed, and I decided to look after myself as it seems nobody else can. Well, Thelma does lick my toes here and there. Right, Thelma? Meow. Oh, it's woof woof. So, these are flowers I bought for me yesterday. And so, to get to the story, and thank you, Carol, for that painting. My sister Carol paints. I have famous painters in my family. That's my son and I. When we were in Stanley Park and we overlooked Lost Lagoon in Stanley Park, BC. We lived there for years. He and me, K-squared forever in a penthouse. We could see the swans floating by, and Raul Almanza from Mako. He became my lover. I hadn't been with anyone for 2.5 years after the narcissistic, putting it lightly, abuse by WKM baby maker would be giving him too much credit. He's a victim of abuse and trauma bond we had no longer. There's somebody I'm disattaching from trauma bond wise, and I'm pulling them out of my solar plexus since I'm at home alone, so to speak. I won't be showing you my solar plexus at this time because I don't feel like getting dressed. And others have problems to address or issues, and they refuse. So I'm going to tell you what happened when I was making things happen. Excuse me, I've lost my voice. I wonder why. So as I was loving myself, all too rarely, and that has to change, because I won't accept it less. Otherwise, I'd be with some schlep, and wouldn't want that to undress itself. So to address this, I thought about, or I had a cellular memory of me turning around, leaning over. That's right. What a beautiful little girl. You're wearing those little panties and socks. I think, what the fuck? And I said, no, I'm actually, you told me you want to be with me forever and marry me. I got wrinkles. My butt is down to my ankles. Oh, that really did it for him. But he was taking Viagra anyway. It wasn't real. None of it was real. This is in 2004, 2005. I met him just before Mother's Day, 2005. And it was to get back at the ministry, MCFD, for stealing my child in 2004. I felt like I got a new home, maybe even better than the one before that they lost on us. How much better can it get? And then I remembered writing in my journal as a teenager and what exactly I said. I decided, why not have the man that's meant for me? Later on, he said, well, why didn't you tell me I wasn't the man that was meant for you? I didn't realize that was a narcissistic, malignant, psychopathic ploy. So I realized, I don't think I have to tell you what I realized. Bend over. Let me see those little white panties. I didn't have any on. I didn't have little white panties. Schoolgirl panties. Schoolgirl socks. Now, ask yourself, whatever you're involved in or have been involved in or going to be involved in, do you feel comfortable? Does it feel comfortable? And just like a little girl, even when you're a growing goddess, whatever that means, if it doesn't feel right, walk away. Pull your panties up. Or don't pull them down. Now, he'd already told me that he was going to drive in front of a bus. So essentially, he threatened me with suicide, which I didn't realize was another narcissistic ploy of a malignant, I don't know if it's covert narcissist, yes. And he was Mr. Charisma. And I won't say what he did for a living, but it made sense about the girls, the white panties, let's just say, school uniform. And then as I was tending to myself just a little while ago, I thought about how he told me about Amrita. And the minute he said it, he impregnated me with it in my mind. He knew I was very vulnerable. I was the target. And even though I was 44 years old, incredibly beautiful, of course, nobody was telling me that. Why would they? Because I'm not as easy to control if I believe I'm beautiful, if I know that I got it. And it doesn't matter, even if you're a PhD, which he was, a college professor, whatever. Those are the worst. But even let's say you're the woman, you're the targeted, and you're that. That doesn't mean you're not susceptible. I'm very wise. I'm incredibly intelligent. He knew that. Oh, seldom did he admit that. He didn't like that about me. He was so frail and insecure. Big, tall, handsome player. He wasn't the player like WKM was. Not Kevin from Heaven. I made him into that. He wasn't. He was a more sophisticated one than Kevin. He had been around the track. Yeah, the racetrack. For more millennia. More decades than Kevin. Kevin was 8 years younger. He was approximately 8 years older. So anyway, the panty thing just fully came to me right now when a cellular memory came up about the Amrita and how he told me, induced it. He programmed me. He knew I was easy to program. He's somebody that works in that field, let's just say. And all of his life, actually. And he said, the princess, they were looking for their princess, India, wherever. And he said they traveled the world to find their princess. And they knew because when they came together, whatever the words were, there came the golden elixir, golden something or other, Amrita. Well, I already knew. I just innately knew. So then it happened at 44, Amrita. You're going to have to pay me to tell you a more in-depth story. And it was incredible. And then when I broke up with him, finally, eventually, amidst the threats, all of the games he played that really thwarted me and my son's progress, he knew what he was doing. And that's the thing. It was a game. So then, during this time, not that many minutes ago, when I was getting to know myself, I then remembered somebody that I will soon no longer know, and how they also like something really young, something, and I found it in their bathroom, where I went to use the bathroom to go potty, to go pee, and it was there, looking at me like a young Cornish game hen, not a woman, more like a virginal, wah! You know what I mean? With a little hole stuck in there, and you know where. Little legs cut off at the tummy, and it was a refuse bin for excrement. I tell you, it told me so much about that person. And this is just recently. I do not have a relationship with them or any kind of sexual intimacy. Never did and never will. And that's why this person despises me. I find that the guys that despise a goddess, that despise the sun, that despise the moon, that despise anything except ignorance and somebody that doesn't know better, because then they're an easy target. When they despise a wise woman, the good, the light, they despise themselves as a mirror. And I'll tell you this, what also came up during this discovery session of myself, it's resonating within me, sort of rhymes with vibrating, and is that when when a male can no longer show his virility even to himself underneath his dirty haystack of a belly, pork belly, ham hocks, whatever the hell it is, because some guys can't even find theirs, and I'm not going looking. It's like an angry tranny or drag queen, which a lot of guys are, latent homosexual. It comes out later in their years. And when they get objects, when they're not willing to do the work to have a real woman, they'd rather have a rubber doll, let's say. And I know somebody that has a sex doll, and he fashioned the breasts and nipples, because they can poke through a blouse, mine, so easy to see them without going to more details, and protect this person, not that they deserve it. So they have a sex toy, anatomically correct. They showed me pictures on their cellular. I know. And some of these people are seemingly happily married with children, and some of them have never had sex in their life, and they're someone's grandpa, or they could be that age. And I won't tell you how I feel about this. My voice might belay that, maybe tell. So people sure have some hang-ups. That'd be the old-fashioned way of putting it, as a 63 3/4 year youngin'. Hang-ups. Now they would be called issues in their issues in their tissues, as Natalie Forsborg said once about people's. I said, that's incredible terminology. Where'd you get that from? And she said, well, it was a friend of mine, and they were healing me. Her company then was called Dare to, like 1, 2, 3, dare2heal.com. And then she got into a near tragic car accident and developed brain damage. And another story. I'm very grateful. I may not have legs, a leg, if it wasn't for her. And she said, what happened to your leg? I mean, it was a stick. It was this one. It was a stick. And at the time, I didn't want to admit that Kevin had kicked it, gave me a little smack and a kick. My baby, Kaylin, was 3 months young, and he ran to me when he saw my gorgeous sticks, his big full boobies on the floor. But he didn't go for my boobs like these objectifiers, these, blankety blanks that don't respect themselves, let alone a woman or a child. And I'll never forget the look of terror on his eyes, which induced me to leave that bastard. Yeah, his mother did go and live in a, like an internment camp. She was stolen, like many of the natives. He is a full-blooded Cree. Yes, I have compassion. No, I didn't know about any of that. And I'm glad, because I was meant to have a baby by him. not to live with him, not to fix him, not to be broken down and die at his mercy, and not to lose my business, which he destroyed. And first, he went to destroy my belief in myself, and he chipped away at my beautiful self-confidence, self-esteem, and he did a damn fine job. And so that leg took years to fully heal because it's connected to your brain. And I've been doing some uncovering and discovering of chronic post-trauma stress disorder, which most people are, fall under now. And thanks to the government and then some. Me, I had early understanding because I was groomed. They tried to MK Ultra me in different ways. They did not succeed. When I was younger, I knew there was one thing I didn't want to be, and that was a social worker. Never asked myself why. Well, because we had an anti-social worker at our house all the time, because she stole all of us 5 children and took my mother away. Decades later, I realized that the lawyer that I sat for, or I babysat him, with his 3 children, 2 of them adopted, and then they got it out of them to have their own baby. I mean, because they relaxed, so they had their own. And then she had nervous breakdown. That's another story. Wonder who gave that to her, eh? Certainly wasn't me. And there's so much I'd like to say that I'll bite my tongue for now. That's what Sir A used to say. What's the matter, cat got your tongue? Because of Catherine and K-A-T. I remember once he said, oh, my wicked witch, my fucking bitch. I wonder what the hell that meant. He had some kind of hooker fantasy, apparently. He said, I don't mind if you're an escort again. I said, I've never been an escort. I'm never going to be an escort. I don't want to be an escort. So I called up Madam V in the Georgia Strait. This was in 2004, 2005. And by then my son is back with me. It's not a discussion in front of him, of course. It's not even a discussion. And he said, that was before my son came back, 2004. So after Mother's Day and before July when Kaylin came back. Kaylin shouldn't have ever been taken. Even Dr. Kukemuller Manfred said that. I don't understand why your son was taken. This does not make any sense. You've never done anything wrong, and you never will do anything wrong. And he wrote this whole psychological report because that's how they launder money. They steal your child. They hope you have a nervous breakdown so that they can label you. And he said, would you say you're eccentric? I said, I'm not eccentric. I should have taken that label. Because then he found another one for me. There's a lot of labels. He said, I have to label you. They pay me. They must have paid him, I don't know, 10 grand, 20 grand. When they steal a child, in 1 year, it's $1 million that they've laundered. Between the psychologists, the psychiatrists, the meds, whatever. When they stole Kaylin, they put him immediately on medication. He'd never been on meds in his life. Now at 28, it shows. It shows symptomatic causal effect consequences of what they've done. So we just have a better case against them. So you must get to know your body. Just laying still. And when I laid still a bit earlier on my own over on this other side of the couch in the near dark is when these cellular memories came up. And I just had a sleep from 5 o'clock till almost 7 hours, almost midnight. I haven't seen the sun in a day and a half. I'm extremely creative. I sold a beautiful video of myself. My twins. Art, but not my face. For a large amount of money, American, from a client that adores me. Of course, he's still a guy that objectifies women, and I'm grateful because I feed a family of 3, and it ain't cheap, and Edward's over here wanting to kiss me. So I just wanted to say that your cells talk to you. Every morning, every day, I talk to my thymus. So it's up here. I'm not going to be showing you. And there are so many pressure points to relieve the pressure. I'm not talking about the ones that a lot of guys go for. Apparently there's gals that do the same thing. And that is another TED Talk. A TED Talk only pays 10,000 American. Let's bring on the TED Talks. I have so many honorable mentions, topics to discuss, and new uncoverings to share, and old wisdoms that I care about. What would you like me to talk about? I'm willing to talk to you. You can pay me for all the work I do and the sleep deprivation that's really logging in hours, unfortunately. So beingoflove@gmail.com, beingoflove@gmail.com via PayPal, be a pal. And so that's via PayPal. And then the other is a direct auto deposit e-transfer. And that is greatness.cat, greatness.kat@gmail.com. And that's an e-transfer direct bank. So time to love the puppies and to have some lemon and water and get up for the day is extremely early. I'm really glad that I had those revelations. So when a guy who has external evidence, when he starts to lose it, as in boing, he is very angry most often. I'm not saying all guys. I'm not doing the stats, and I'm not going around surveying or surveilling. The males I've met when they couldn't get it up, and some of them I've known intimately, like my last ex many years ago, and guys that I can tell that are away from me proximately, like in proximatory, I keep them far away from me physically, sexually, all of that. I can tell the ones that hate women, because when a guy lashes out with venom, a guy is not a man, and he has a sexual issue. He can't get it up. It's called erectile penile dysfunction. He's got a softy tofty, right? So he wants to blame women. Doesn't matter how much he masturbates, how porn is his bestie friend, yeah. Bestiality, all that shit. Because they're looking for another high, because they don't have any dopamine, serotonin, oxytocin registry. They have no cognitive ability to really feel empathy and compassion. All they can do is act it out like a charlatan, like a shyster. And they can be very convincing. Court judges have been convinced by them. Lawyers. I remember the narc slayer, this wicked Rebecca Sung, said UNG. She's a narcissistic, she's a narc slayer, she's a narc mediator. She knows that you can't have a discussion with a narcissist, psychopath, sociopath, selfish bastard, female version too out there. You can't have they only debate. It's their highway or the highway. They don't care about anyone. They don't know how to care about themselves. It's like someone left shit in their diaper and they're going to smear it all over you. And they're proud to leave their semen toilet paper in their bathroom. They leave their male sex toy right in front of you when it shouldn't be there, when you're using their restroom. Everything is to poke pull the feathers out of the bird, poke the creature, see how much it takes till she bleeds, because they are so fucking dead inside. Someone helped destroy them. Well, there's no excuse. I have a lot of compassion and empathy. There is no excuse to hurt another, no matter how much you've been hurt. That's how it goes too. You either are very, very hurt when you're young, and a lot of us have been, and then you turn that trauma into something terrific, and you give that gift to the world, or you fucking die away, because it's painful if you just focus on what you think someone did, your perceptions of it, days later, weeks later, months, decades later, millennia. So it's best to develop your higher senses. And so when others go to the gutter, that's their lower senses. They have no common sense. They have no critical thinking skills. They're critical. They're full of criticism and cynicism and bitterness. There's a saying out there, don't get bitter, get better, or get better, don't get bitter. Well, I find a lot of those entitlement, embitterment, abandonment. I mean, we all have the same issues. Abandonment, betrayal, there's a few of them. We've all touched base with them. We've all abandoned someone without knowing we did. And then we can fix it if they're not dead. If we didn't kill them, a lot of people kill others. I know people in my family that have killed the people I love because subconsciously is how they premeditated it. They planned it. It wasn't ordained. It wasn't meant to be. They took lives, and they all have an awful life. They poison themselves. They're paranoid. There's nobody that commits crimes against another that isn't paranoid that they're going to get caught. Oh yeah, they usually lead another to the crime. My rapist, child murderer, told his wife that he had just raped and murdered a 12-year-old girl, and he buried her, told her where. I know because he told me. And he only did 12 years for that crime. And then she was 12. That's fair. Just take someone's life, 12 years, and get 12 years because you're a model prisoner. Thanks, Robert Hudler, Bob Neese, and even the gal that did the story, The Chilhowat Progress, is afraid to do a return story because I talked to her editor while typing, and I threw out a really great idea. He said, yes, we're doing it. Well, that editor is now gone, unfortunately. What a shame. And she doesn't want to do the story. So I'll do something even better than a return front page 4 cover story in the Chilhowat Progress. Read it. It's the Chilhowat Progress paper archives. 2001 is when I wrote or did this story. She did a great job because she just followed me verbatim when I spoke to her. She never took a word out of context. She never made a lie like that psychologist that was hired to attempt to defame me and lie about my son because he was paid to lie. If he didn't find something wrong, make up something wrong, then he would forfeit his tens of thousands of dollars for pretending to be our friend. And my son actually wants to see Manfred Kukemuller because he forged a relationship, a trauma bond, because he knew how to do that with my son or anyone. Oh, there's more on that story. Anyway, by far and far, he seems to be one of the better ones. Imagine Manfred Kukemuller blowing the whistle on MCFD. Oh, I hope he's still alive so he can retire before he dies to do something good with his conscience for what he knows that dirty government agency did. Just like the stealing of the children, the native children, which is the story of the deadbeat, no good dad, the sperm donor, the weak male with the strong sperm that I was meant to have a baby with. And that is all. And my son was meant to be here because he called to me. He chose me. He chose Kevin. He chose because that was good sperm. That was some strong shit. And on my side, fertile, amazing eggs. I had 8 babies that left their tissue in me before my son was born. From the age of 19 until 32 or 33. And then Kaylin in 1996, when I was 36. I have so many lessons to help people with. I wouldn't want anybody to have my life. And then again, I have a very fulfilling, realized, meaningful life. I don't need to hurt anyone to feel better. I certainly don't need to hurt to be better. I know people that are masochists, sadomasochists, and sadists. A rapist is a sadist. They called the rapist a sadomasochist on paper, but they didn't keep me from being raped, did they? Or the other people from being murdered. I have a case against them too. A couple retired police officers, one of them primarily, then a retired lawyer after that. He told me, you don't have a case against the National Parole Board, it's against Corrections Canada. He got all linear left brain when he was talking to me on the street, because I said, I'm suing the National Parole Board of Canada. He said, oh, how long are you in jail? What were you in the jail for? I was like in shock. I laughed. I said, I've never been, I wasn't in jail. I never did time. I said, a guy that did time, that they let out in far too near a time, he did some nasty things to me and many others. I kept him in jail for over 34 years. He died 16 years ago. There's a reason I have short hair. God, I would look gloriously beautiful still if these things hadn't been done to me. And there's more. And then I wouldn't be able to tell the story so well, would I? Do you want me to develop 400 pounds of extra weight so you can say, oh, she looks like a victim? Let's listen to her finally. And now she's almost 64. She's still got a wicked set of legs on her, even at her worst. She got a tight little tush. And there's there's a few other aspects of her that are glowingly goddess sent and heaven lent. What, should we wait till she's dead and sift through her embers? Well, you're not going to make money off of me, baby. You made enough off of me when I've been alive. You're never going to make any more money off of me when I'm dead. I'll tell you that. I want you to know that apparently it's $20,000 for a liver. That's what when they steal organs. I personally think it's more, because when they stole my placenta, my son and I, our placenta, apparently that's $20,000 American. Or maybe it was more. The numbers elude me at this moment because I'm not in thinking mode. Right, Thelma? So legs up. Donate. Be grateful. If you don't see my gifts now, believe me, they're there.